You have heard that to sharpen your brain, you need brain training apps, exotic mushrooms, cold plunges, maybe some obscure nootropic stack. Sounds sophisticated, right? Here is the truth. The most powerful brain sharpening habits are so boring you have been actively avoiding them your entire life. You've been told that daydreaming is laziness, that fidgeting is a nervous tic, that sitting alone with your thoughts, doing absolutely nothing, is a waste of precious time. And that belief, that constant hunger for stimulation, is exactly what is making your brain dull, anxious, and forgetful. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the boring everyday habits that actually rewire your brain for focus, creativity, and resilience. Every single one. The complete truth. In the next few minutes, we're breaking down 3 boring habits that neuroscientists now know are supercharged brain tools. Habit 1. Daydreaming. Why zoning out is your brain's most creative mode. Habit 2. Fidgeting. How tiny movements make you smarter in real time. And Habit 3. The weapon of true boredom. The mental reset you've been starving yourself of. And by the end, you'll see your urge to stay busy as a trap you cannot unsee. Let us start with daydreaming. Everyone thinks daydreaming is a sign of a distracted, undisciplined mind. You stare out the window during a meeting and suddenly you're accused of slacking off. Nope. Here's the truth. When you zone out, your brain shifts into its most powerful creative engine. It's called the default mode network, or DEN. When you're focused on a task, the brain's task-positive network lights up. You're locked in, narrow, analytical. That works for execution, but the moment you let your mind wander, the DEN takes over. This network connects distant brain regions, linking memories, emotions, random sensory fragments. It's not idle, it's your brain's internal search engine, scanning for solutions you would never find by forcing focus. The chemical at play here is dopamine, not a massive spike like from a notification, but a slow, steady trickle tied to the anticipation of insight. Your brain rewards you for the hunt, not just the prize. That's why your best ideas hit when you're in the shower, walking without a podcast, or doing the dishes. Your brain was secretly working the whole time. But here's the mechanism in high resolution. When you're not feeding your brain a constant stream of input, the DEN shifts into autobiographical planning mode. It stitches together fragments from your past and projects them into possible futures. This isn't escapism. This is the brain rehearsing outcomes, solving problems offline, and building your very sense of self. Without that offline rehearsal, you become a passive input-output machine, reacting to whatever is in front of you. Studies using functional MRI have shown that moments of insight are preceded by a quiet burst of alpha waves in the visual cortex. Your brain literally closes its eyes to the outside world for a split second to find the answer inside. The peak of a good daydream is that flash, the sudden solution that makes you sit up straight. But modern life has engineered away every gap of silence. You reach for your phone in the elevator, in line, on the toilet. You never let your DEN do its job. The consequence is not a dramatic crash, but a slow, creeping dullness. You become a person who can only execute, never innovate. Your brain forgets how to connect dots. 1 minute of daydreaming feels like nothing, but over a year, the compound effect of a silenced DEN is a mind that cannot think for itself. You think you're being productive by filling every second with input. Really, you're starving your brain's most creative network. That's the trap. Daydreaming is not laziness. It's a biological necessity. Next, fidgeting. This one will make every teacher you ever had furious. We're told to sit still, stop tapping, stop doodling, focus. But fidgeting is your brain's secret self-regulation tool. When you tap your foot, spin a ring, click a pen, or doodle aimlessly, you're not distracted. You're sharpening your focus in real time. Here's the mechanism. Your brain has a constant background hum of neural noise, random firing that competes with the task at hand. When you give your motor cortex a simple, rhythmic job, it acts like a noise-canceling signal. That humming noise gets a beat, transforming into white noise that actually helps your prefrontal cortex filter out distractions. This is partly driven by norepinephrine, a chemical that balances alertness. A small movement raises norepinephrine just enough to keep you in the optimal zone. Not too drowsy, not too anxious. The sweet spot where flow happens. At its peak, you find yourself completely absorbed in a lecture or a complex problem, while your hand mindlessly spins a pen. Your brain is running at full capacity because you gave it a physical metronome. Think of it like a high-performance engine. It idles too low, it stalls. It revs too high, it burns out. Fidgeting is the steady idle that keeps the engine ready for instant torque. Research on working memory shows that people who gesture or doodle while processing complex information retain significantly more than those who sit rigid. The physical movement creates a second layer of encoding, an extra handle for the brain to grab onto later. And yet the school system and the modern office treat fidgeting as a disorder. They pathologize it, medicate it, and demand stillness. But if you suppress all movement, you hit a wall. Your brain spends immense energy just keeping your body frozen. That cognitive load overloads your working memory. You start to mentally drift, you get bored, and then you reach for a bigger distraction. The real trap is that we medicate that restlessness with more stimulation, more tabs, more social media, making the noise louder instead of tuning it out with a simple pen tap. You think stillness equals focus. It actually equals cognitive drain. Fidgeting is not a disorder. It is a focusing tool that you were trained to bury. And finally, boredom. Boredom is the ultimate modern terror. You feel it for 3 seconds and your hand automatically goes for the phone. Everyone acts like boredom is a void that must be filled immediately. Wrong. True stimulus-free boredom is your brain's maintenance mode. When you sit alone with your thoughts, doing absolutely nothing, your brain enters a state called self-generated thought. It is not doing nothing, it is cleaning house. Microglial cells, the brain's tiny janitors, prune away weak synaptic connections. The strong connections get stronger. Your brain consolidates long-term memories from the day, moving them from temporary storage into long-term vaults. It also strengthens the default mode network, the creative engine we just discussed. This is where your sense of identity and long-term goals live. Without boredom, you lose touch with what you actually want. You become a passive consumer of other people's thoughts. Now, here is the part nobody talks about. When you refuse to be bored, you do not just kill creativity, you kill your ability to tolerate any discomfort. A famous study once gave participants the choice to sit alone in a room for 15 minutes or self-administer painful electric shocks. A disturbing number of people chose the shocks just to escape the quiet. That is not a quirky fact. That is a clinical sign that the modern brain has become allergic to its own company. The chemical story here involves cortisol. Constant phone checking keeps cortisol slightly elevated, a low-grade stress hum. Boredom, once you push through the initial itch, drops that stress load. The brain's repair systems kick in. The peak of boredom is a strange, open clarity. At first, you feel uncomfortable, maybe even anxious, but then ideas bubble up from nowhere. Priorities sort themselves out. A quiet calm settles in. But if you never let yourself be bored, you crash into anhedonia. That's the clinical term for not being able to enjoy anything because your dopamine receptors are fried from constant novelty. You need more and more input just to feel normal. That's the doom scroll trap. You think you're relaxing by watching shorts. Really, you're blunting your brain's ability to feel pleasure. Boredom is your brain's janitor, and you fired him. So here's the unifying theme. 3 habits: daydreaming, fidgeting, and boredom. All 3 are labeled as unproductive, lazy, or disruptive by a world that profits from your constant attention. The system sold you a lie. It told you that every empty moment was a problem to solve with a notification, a scroll, a swipe. But your brain was never designed to be constantly focused or constantly entertained. It evolved to wander, to move, and to rest in silence. The system wants you anxious and distracted because a calm, creative brain is harder to sell to. But now you know the mechanisms. You see the chemical loops, the attentional traps, the hidden cost of always being on. The cure is not a superfood or a fancy routine. The cure is reclaiming the boring moments you were tricked into surrendering. Now you know. What you do with it is up to you. If you enjoyed this video, you'll probably like the 16 essential minerals that keep you alive right here.